Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another chapter of Experiencer Interviews. And today we have on Elizabeth Anglin from the US, back for a part 2. Now, many of you contacted me to have Elizabeth return to the channel, and she was more than happy to. Now, Elizabeth Anglin is the author of the book titled Experience, Memoirs of an Abducted Childhood, a book about living as an alien abductee and an abduction research subject. She is a lifelong experiencer, and her youth was a storm of terribly strange events. Elizabeth would eventually meet Dr. John E. Mack, becoming one of his first research subjects as he began his research to make sense of the contact experience. She worked with him from 1990 through 1997. Elizabeth was a skeptic, though she had experienced some strange things and was afraid of aliens for most of her childhood. She considered her fears to be irrational. She didn't believe friends and family members who said they saw aliens, or had relationships with aliens, or even had been alien in a past life. She thought they were suffering from stress or an inability to distinguish dreams from reality. Then on November 29, 1989, she found herself face to face with an alien in her apartment and realized this kind of event happened before. Even worse, she realized that a boy she knew growing up had probably been killed when an abduction experience went wrong, and that aliens can make mistakes, sometimes deadly mistakes. Terrified, she contacted abduction researcher Bud Hopkins, who put her in touch with Dr. John Mack at Harvard University. Soon after, she became one of the first abductees to research abduction experiences with Dr. Mack. Elizabeth appears as the abductee, Anne, discussing the nature of time in the book Abduction by Dr. John E. Mack, and as Amy in Alien Discussions, proceedings of the Abduction Study Conference held at MIT. As a member of a wider group of abductees, her information also appears in John E. Mack's Passports to the Cosmos. Her book can be purchased on Amazon. So, Elizabeth, thank you so much for agreeing to come back for part 2.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
Now, we've talked over the holidays a bit, and we built up a rather interesting list of subjects that we wanted to get into today because we didn't have chance the last time. Let's talk about the new Earth, and I know it's a bit controversial for some, and the information coming out there is a bit. It does differ from person to person. So could you get into your experiences regarding that?
So the new Earth was something that the memories of that, the memories of going there, were things that came up when I was working with John Mack, and they seemed to be things that were at the fore. They were things where I remembered, one of the abductees, the one that I think we talked about cloning, the one that looked like me. I remembered I had had a dream of being in this place that had seashore with very strange, looked like fluorite crystals for sand. Your typical fluorite crystal. For those of you who are crystal people, they're way big and fluorite shaped, and it wasn't sand. They were actually fluorite sized sand. And then going straight up this hill with this really dense grass that you could get your hands into, so you could kind of climb up a very steep hill in the grass, and getting to the top and seeing this wonderful, beautiful mountain range of new mountains. New mountains are very spiky and craggy and snow-capped and tall. Old mountains are round, like the Appalachians. If you look at northern Scotland, those are old mountains. So new mountains, our newest mountains in the US are near Telluride, surrounding Telluride. And I'm not sure about Canada. I'm sorry, Canada folks, I'm not as familiar with your geography. But so we had that kind of craggy, spiky mountains in the background over these hills that were rolling. And we were hiking toward an installation, an encampment. And Julia, who was with me, who I was dreaming about, was working on doing hydroponics and growing food and setting up a food facility there. And I have no idea what I was doing except kind of, my job is, as I remember it, is I pilot things. Well, when I was young, I would often crash land on this planet just off the beach So, so I don't know if I did in that particular remembrance of Julia, but I had another friend who was an experiencer who I remember crash landing with him, and he's kind of like my brother, so he was like, again, in the water, we have to swim to the shore kind of thing. So anyway, I was pretty young, 24, 25, 26, and it seemed really central to this, what the story was about. Why is this happening? What's going on here? Where are these hybrid children going? And why are we doing this? And it's never gone away from me as being central to the story, my personal narrative about why this is happening. And even when I went to Star Knowledge in 96 and talked with Harry Charger, I mean, he just looked dead at me. He hadn't ever met me. I'm in a room. He looked dead at me and he said, we're not going to the new Earth, but our children and grandchildren are going there. And he considered it, he said the Native Americans considered it to be in the Pleiades. Well, as a spirit medium going forward, what I've found is that it might be in the Pleiades, but it's not in this particular parallel timeline. It's in a next door one, 3,000 years in the future. So all of time happens at once for consciousness, and that's not necessarily a problem. If you can get there, then you can do that thing in the physical world. So in the physical world, in a parallel timeline, we have a new Earth, and that's what my contacts who were I have two that were in the original experiencer group will go out and they'll come back and they'll say, yep, we checked it and this is what's going on, and here's how you need to think about the cosmology of how this works. So the new Earth is there. I have heard other people say William Treneat, who is Canadian. Have you ever heard of William Treneat? He's done a lot of really cool channeling, but channeling toward the physicality of the Greys and where the Greys come from and what their technology is. And some of the stuff he's come up with just is right in line with what I've seen. So one of the things that he talks a lot about is the serial quantum environment. And does anybody know about serial quantum environments? Okay, so this is where abductees and contactees can get really confused about what's going on, because the Greys have two different technologies that besides all the genetic mind controlling Greys that can make you have screen memories, which is confusing, but they have two sort of static equipment pieces. One is a probability field reader that reads, if we do this, then this will happen. If we do this, then this we. So their whole thing about psychic readings is really sort of built in to their whole system. If we show up here at this time and do this thing, what happens then? What time stream happens then? And in this parallel, they're not going back and forth in their own time stream. They're going back and forth across the parallels that are sort of going in a circle. If we do this, what happens if we do this? What's most likely to happen with this person at this time? So a lot of their decision making comes about for individuals and for the collective whole as utilitarian probability field reading. Okay, we do that here through algorithms, and I worked with a gentleman at MIT, George Apostolakis, who's now the chairman of the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. He created an algorithm that could tell you whether or not, what the probability of a nuclear power plant melting down was based on your human factors, how old your equipment was, what kind of equipment it was, et cetera, et cetera. So what they have is this even better quantum probability reader. Okay, it's a really important piece of technology that they use all the time. The other thing that they use, especially with experiencers and contactees and abductees, is something called a serial quantum environment, where they run a projection of the thing that they found in the probability field. And then that's either a training thing saying, okay, abductees, this is where your planet is going. Are you ready for this? Do you know what to do? Do you know how to take care of yourself? Do you know where to go? Do you know how to find food? Do you know how to survive? So a lot of us went through serial quantum environment training on apocalyptic, guess what? Everybody's mind controlled and it's all fire and it's all flood and it's all dry and nobody's eating anything, and they all think they're having heavenly experiences because they're being shuffled into movie theaters that have been turned into mind control devices. And don't watch the movie, just watch the tennis, was one thing that Julia used to say to me. She'd be like, no, don't watch the movie, watch the tennis. Because if you got sucked up into a storyline, if somebody gives you a storyline that feels rather compelling, all of a sudden that storyline can become your reality, even though it has nothing to do with your actual reality. And we're witnessing some of that now. I don't mean to be too preachy, but be careful of your conspiracy theories, because some of them are really complete storylines. And when they become so, there is an energy now of something that's such a complete storyline becoming your reality. Well, it's your reality if you allow it to be, but it's not necessarily the actual reality that's taking place around you. And that's bad, because if you get caught in the storyline and you forget to eat, forget to bathe, forget that you don't have a house anymore, forget to drink water, you're going to die. Your physical body's going to die, and you're going to be taken out of the equation. And so that was what a lot of the serial quantum environment training was about. William Treneat, getting back to him, the Canadian who's done some really cool research with a channeler from Australia, John Hammond. Oh gosh, I interviewed him. I should remember his name. Talks about the serial quantum environment because they're channeling a gray who's giving them information. But some of that gray's information doesn't, they will swear upside down and forward that there's no new Earth. There's only Earth, and Earth is a pearl. Well, I think that's an important message, so that we don't just kind of throw away what we have, which is really wonderful, right? But no, my contacts in spirit, other abductees in spirit have said, no, there is a new Earth, and there's a reason there's a new Earth. And one of the going way back to the Wayback Machine, one is this planet was inhabited by some pretty bloodthirsty reptilians. And they were pretty aggressive, and in order to survive, they were, they used that reptilian hindbrain that we have, and they did a lot of aggressive things. And, it was meat rather than greet. Are you meat? Let me eat you, right? That's what this planet was about for years and years and years. And going back in time in past life regression, I've witnessed myself being on the planet, the Sirius B, which is now no longer. And they were trying to figure out where to move everybody when the sun went supernova, and this planet was made available. But the problem was, how are people from that culture with the energy of that planet, which was quite gentle and very telepathic, and people, communicated telepathically with animals, and they did a lot of more sciencey spiritual stuff, spiritual technology stuff. How are they going to be affected by this deep survival instinct of reptilians, which is, I might eat you, I might greet you, but I'll probably eat you if I'm hungry, right? Or we'll have a war and I'll take over your stuff because I need stuff to survive in a physical body. I mean, it's just cut and dried. Surviving in physical body comes first. My relationship with you, second, third, 12th, whatever. Does that make sense? So we all, and then there are people coming from other planets and other places. They're all coming to this beautiful, beautiful little planet that's been made way for a lot of refugees from planets of people that have had higher spiritual technology and higher brain functioning and are really smart, but they need a place to continue to grow in the physical realm. But they've got this sort of astral realm reptilian going on at the same point. Well, tried it once, tried it twice, tried it at Atlantis, tried it Mood, tried it in Lemuria. And again, it gets down to this selfishness of survival. Do you understand what I'm saying? Am I boring you? You look
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
You're hurting. Like and we're not dissing reptilians here. They know how to survive, right? They know how to take over stuff, and they know how to be warlike and militaristic, and they know how to do this stuff, right? But for all of these lighter beings that were sort of in between sort of a higher dimensional frequency and and this physical earth frequency. This is quite destabilizing. And then so anyway, a friend of mine likes to call the Sirius B people the Sirius B Council. I call them the Sirius B Nazis because they've done genocides over time. Every time it didn't work out here, there was an apocalyptic genocide where they said, they're all sucking, they're all acting like reptilians, let's wipe them out. You know, so I kind of was like, could we give them another chance? No, not working. But the new Earth is really like it's really been figured out that the energy of this planet, if we don't, and this is where kind of the Barbara Marciniak stuff comes in, if we don't clear up the energy of this planet, it's not really great for a lot of us. And we're going to continue to see aggression, wars, rape, misogyny, mandriny, hatred, racism, and all of that, because every time there's a big war or a big genocide or a lot of hatred, it sort of sticks in the astral energy around the planet. The planet is sticky and it's got all this energy stuck, and it needs a giant energetic enema of massive proportions. And so in order to let all of the people who were coming from, say, Sirius B or another planet that for one reason or another had gotten to the end of where people could evolve in the physical with the bodies that they had and the lessons they were learning, there's a new Earth being created that doesn't have a lot of that energetic that came initially from the reptilians, but then got recapitulated over and over and over again. So we're basically, what I've learned over time is we are a lot more sensitive as mental, emotional, energetic creatures than we give ourselves credit for. You know, at this point, pushing 60, I like to watch K-dramas instead of American TV because they're very sweet, you know, and they're about love. And so, and you know, if I go back to watch something like Reacher after watching K-dramas, I have like terrible nightmares and feel really bad because anything that comes into us really affects us. And we just think that we should go back 200 years and be able to behave in the way our founding fathers in the United States wanted us to behave, and all be able to use our guns appropriately and weapons and blah, blah, blah. But the fact of the matter is we go nuts in terms of hatred, aggression, my ego, survive versus not survive. I've got to survive, so you got to die. Some of this old, very grounded, very physical energy doesn't work well with all of us. And so we're seeing the problems that we're having. We're seeing, you know, the 100 Years' War. We're seeing the medieval times. We're seeing all of the stuff that has gone on century after century after century, where people were, you know, oh, well, you don't believe what we believe? Let's just kill you because we need this land. We got to survive. We got a guy who's really good at surviving, and so he's going to take your land now. But the new Earth is not supposed to be like that. And part of why it's not supposed to be like that is that it doesn't hold in the planet itself that information that is getting recapitulated through the physiology and the energetic structure of the people who are on it. And I'm going to take a break now from talking. So.
Is the new Earth actually a plan B if something screws up our planet?
It's a plan B because it's not for everybody. Because not everybody's going to get to go, at least not initially. And you know, and that's sad. We would like to think that there's spiritual equality and everybody's important and everybody gets a nice place to go be and do and grow from. But you know, some people will be, I don't know, waiting in the wings. I'm not exactly sure. So I call it a plan B only because you're not going to end up with 7 billion people on it immediately if something happens to this planet. And that's not nice. So
So what would be the prerequisites of somebody being chosen?
I think you got to vibrate with it. I don't
Mhm.
know. I mean, this is where we get into me talking with friends and deep late night conversations saying the Series B Council people are Nazis. Because my whole thing about prerequisites are, well, who gets to judge? Right? Why you? Why not somebody else? Well, and I had this metaphysical shop in this little town where I live. Um, and I remember people would walk in the door and somebody would proudly say, well, I'm a spiritual person. And I want to say, great, leave immediately. And that guy, that drunk guy you see walking down the street, he's a spiritual person too. Now think on that and come back when you tell me what you thought, because I totally believe that we're all here learning different lessons at different times for different reasons, and we all have
Mm.
spiritual qualities. So the fact that there could be some alien something or other out there saying, you get to go have this nice experience and you get to have this crappy one, uh if it's not something like in the Bible, it says we all have free will. Well, you know don't give me a Series B council. I don't want them. It's like, go get. But it could be resonation, it could be somebody wants to have a hard time. I don't know anybody who wants to have a hard time. So, yeah, I'm still working on that one. I'm still chewing on who gets to decide who goes where, when, and does it even matter in the whole concept of the cosmology of time. I don't know.
Now, do you know if they're going to be taken physically, or will they have to die and perhaps like use the resurrection technology down the road and give themselves a new body over
What's
there?
res what's resurrection technology?
Like the a few people that I had on would talk about this technology where they build an exact clone of your body in a capsule.
Nah, that's so high entropy. Forget that. We don't need that high entropy stuff. People get reborn, dogs get reborn, bugs get reborn.
Mhm.
It's gonna be, from what it appears on this planet, you get reborn based on, after some review of your past life, what you did, what you learned, what you felt you didn't learn, your judgment of yourself, what you wanted to do, what you wanted to fix. You don't need a resurrection technology to make that happen.
Yeah.
And I think people need to get out of this victimization thing of somebody else has to make this technology for you, and so they're the gatekeepers. No,
Mm.
no,
Yeah.
you get reborn basically where you want to go. But if you're building a new planet and you don't know about it, right? Are you going to want to be reborn there?
Mm.
Like if somebody keeps the information from you, yeah, maybe there's a little victimization there. But in terms of a resurrection machine, they're not in control of your soul. They're not coming for your soul. Cut it out, people. It's not a thing. And people that are talking about aliens want your soul. No, that's not
Yeah.
how it's working. So
And yeah,
there be
yeah, I suspect that also if you're going to a plan B, you don't want to bring baggage to that planet, right? So why would you bring a sick body? We all
right.
know how us humans were sick, and our genes have been weakened century after century ever. So
It's not just that. What people don't realize is that genetically we are 51% of other tiny little beings that are from this planet. Okay. Now, there's some, that new planet has genetic information from this planet as well. But and it's how over time that genetic information has expressed itself that's different. Like the grass on the hill that's so tightly compact that you can climb up it, like it's a really good climbing carpet. Um, that's some kind of sawgrass. I can tell because I know sawgrass, but it's not sawgrass like you were going to see here on in the here. It's grown in a different way.
mhm,
The gravity is slightly different over time. It's evolved in a slightly different way for slightly different. The sizes of the continents are different. The sizes of the oceans different. So you've got different weather patterns. You've got different gravity. You've got different stuff. The gravity is absolutely heavier. It's a bigger planet. So you'll get a workout if you go there in this body, but you can do it. It's just you'll get a workout. And especially because it's so young and there's a lot of verticality, you'll get a workout. So it's heavier and you got to go up and down a lot. It's a workout. So the kids, some of the hybrid kids are there, but what you're really looking at is over a long period of time, the evolution of what's going to come from our genetics, which are just human slash alien, but they're also like bugs and bacteria and protozoa and all of these things that are in our gut and all mitochondria. Mitochondria is not even ours. Came from some, other thing. So we're going to see a shifting and a change of all of those things based on the conditions, the physical conditions of the new Earth, and also on the energetic conditions of the new Earth. Right? It's clear, it's cleaner. A lot of people use fluorite for clearing. Well, I mean, I'm walking on a beach of fluorite. I mean, there's a lot of clearing energy in that planet. So hopefully we'll clear out all of the gunk that we've had, even though this is beautiful. This is a really beautiful place and I love it here. And it'll give you a really dense emotionality experience between conflict and bliss. The other planet is more subtle in terms of those things.
Okay. Let's get to another question, since we've got a lot. How about interdimensional beings and angelics? Are they the same? Are they different? Where are they from?
There's so many interdimensional beings, and you have interdimensional parasites. You have physical interdimensionals who come through in physical craft or have the ability to go through the barriers between parallels. You have angelics. You have wonderful interdimensional mantis beings. I can't believe mantises are getting such a bad rap lately from some people. What are going on, people? 9th level mantis beings, you want them to be your friend because they will fix you up. when you go wrong, they will fix you up energetically, and they'll also protect you. Fairies. So we have a couple of different things going on. We have interdimensional, and then we have intervibrational. So fairies and elves and divas are here on the earth with us, but their vibrational level is like, how many of you are musicians? So if you know you're a musician, you've got the 12-tone scale, and then you've got half steps. Well, imagine that we all, for our vibrational reality, we don't just have half steps, we have quarter steps, which are, you have a vibration, and then if you put an I by it to express that, rather than, you're going from C to C sharp, that's a half step, you're going to go C to half sharp. Well, your fairies, your divas, your elves, mountain critters, things that you don't see, they're all vibrating at that quarter step, whatever it is, vibrational I, and you can't see them because they're not hitting, light isn't hitting them at the same frequency it's hitting you, and your eyes are not adjusted to them. From time to time, you'll hit pockets where things are transitioning, or you are able to open up your clairvoyant ability and focus, and then you'll see them. Or you get in a situation of like a group clearing, and you have clairvoyant abilities, and then all of a sudden you'll see all the fairies at the door going, can we get in on this group clearing? Hello, we live here too. It's hard on us too. So you'll see them at that point, and it's just a matter of knowing that from C to D, you have C half sharp, C sharp, C double sharp, D. So you've got quarter steps just between C and C sharp, and quarter steps between C sharp and D. Imagine you're a musician. So you're looking at the vibrational frequency, you're hearing it. It's both sound and light, but it's not quite in tune with where you're at. So you don't hear it. You don't see it. But they're right here on this planet with us. Now, an interdimensional that you don't want to meet, there's a parasitic being, or there's a class of light beings. And I'm going to call them a class because I know there's more than one type. When I was younger, I called them Argent light, and it would be a light being from another dimension that ends up here on Earth accidentally, and it eats ki or chi. And if you run across one of those, it'll just suck all the energy out of you and you'll die. So, and it doesn't belong here. So every once in a while, there'll be a portal or a rift or something will open up, and you'll end up getting a light being that is, for our purposes, parasitic in nature, that will kill like rabbits, people, or make you very, very, very sick. So there's that kind of interdimensional being. And then there's not just physical interdimensional beings. You have angelic beings, demonic beings, negative thought forms, tulpas, and those are our astral or mental plane, or above. So right here where we're talking, we're in our physical. One level above us or half level above us is the near Earth astral. So when you see a ghost, they're in the near Earth astral. And then there's the sort of heavenly astral, which is where people go to regroup, review, and their consciousness very quickly makes reality. So their heaven is whatever they want it to be. If they liked fishing, they're going to be fishing while they regroup and review. If they liked knitting, they'll be knitting. If they liked Hubble figurines, they'll have a whole shelf of Hubble figurines because their consciousness brings it into reality. So what we consider to be heaven, that's not near Earth astral reality, but the people in heaven can come to the astral, near Earth astral, or be there. Above that is the angelic realm, the mental realm. They interact with people in the heavenly astral. And above that are, all these other beings, which I don't work with a lot, so I don't feel qualified to start talking about who goes where after that. But then you have on the near Earth astral, you've got tulpas, thought forms. You've got what's considered demonic, satanic, but these are all semantics that we're using from our Judeo-Christian background, right? They're not coming up from hell. They're just creating hellish experiences. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like if you got a demonic being attached to you or a satanic beings will make you feel like you're trapped and you're suffocating or that somebody else has power over you. That's why we call them satanic beings. That's why they fit in that class. Demonic beings will scare the mother loving crap out of you, make you fearful and make you fight out. So they tend to be more of like playing with your reptilian hindbrain in terms of my survival is more important than yours and I'm going to fight you. And, like that. And then thought forms can be anything from I'm no good, I'm no good, I'm no good, which is like this, the inner critic, which we all grow up with because if we're in the US or Canada, we have this Judeo-Christian background of sin. You're no good, I'm no good, I'm no good. Okay. And then the thought form just keeps bringing back, you're no good, you're no good, you're no good. And then you have just negative entities, which are sort of, let's create some chaos. Like, chaos. Let's just make things for no particular reason. Let's make communications crazy and bad. And like, whatever it was you said, they took it the wrong way and they took it really the wrong way, that sort of thing. So they're like little imps. And then you've got some dark workers that make hybrid beings that do really weird stuff and the near Earth astral. And you can create hybrid beings with intention and thought and some skill. Blah. Sorry, I've met some weird ones. And then you've got shadow beings and hat beings and that sort of thing. So,
have you ever met angelics before?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about a subject that they get to talk about a lot on TV, the secret space program. What do you know about that?
I just know what I remember from my own experiences. So, and it's still a lot of it's fuzzy because some of it I don't want to remember. A lot of really wrong things are done to children. We'll just start there. A lot of really wrong things are done to children to see if they qualify for the secret space programs. There's a lot of trying to break children who are abductees to begin with, who have some ability or some genetics where they can use alien craft or use alien tech, or they've got some family history. And so my understanding is that there is a parallel. This gets into a big storyline. You all don't have to agree with it. You don't have to approve of it. I could be wrong. But the big storyline is in one of our parallels, the Nazis won the war. And they won with help from some aliens. And then they used alien tech for mind control purposes and also to travel between the parallels. And they tend to use this parallel as the broom closet for getting staff that they don't have to pay for and they don't have to have any responsibility to. And generally that staff tends to be children of abductees who have some genetic markers for ability to telepathically work with aliens, telekinetically work alien technology. But they also do a lot of testing and a lot of breaking, dissociative breaking of these children, where they're creating splits that they feel they can control. And if they aren't able to split you and create a split that they can control, they might kill you, or they might just throw you back, depending on who you are and what your role in this reality is, in this particular parallel is. My understanding for myself is that I had a week where I was missing, and it's in the book. And in that week, I lived 11 years on Mars, 300 years in the future in the parallel. And I had a husband, and I did logistics for the war they were raging there in that parallel. And I had a daughter. And then I came back, and it was a week later. And I had no memory of what happened that week, and I lost my job. So, but I didn't write about it being in my labs for a long time because I didn't go into it for a long time. Like, what was I doing that week? And I had some memories, but I thought they were dreams. It's like, this doesn't make any sense. Who is this guy? This guy that I feel like is my husband, and yada, yada, yada. So it took me going back and remote viewing and doing some self-regression to kind of find out, oh, that's what's going on there. But because my agreement was to do the Harvard stuff, they didn't break me. Like, I didn't become like a super warrior or anything like that. I can kill people with my pinky. Yeah, right. No, I just did logistics. Like, I'm good at organizing stuff, and I did logistics stuff at MIT. So, yeah, it got put back. Never really got broken. Never really got multiple personalities, though there are things I don't remember. But I didn't get killed either. So a lot of people in the program are afraid of getting killed. My dad was in the program. To this day, he gets scared to talk, that they will kill him if he talks. And it is a very deep and abiding fear that he has. And every once in a while, his lips open up and he starts talking. And then, an hour later, he'll be terrified that he's about to be killed. So there's a lot of more, like, the Greys are very adept at mind control. It's kind of a gentle thing. Humans are just bastards with mind control. They do nasty shit to make you afraid and to control you and to split your personality and make you have dissociative identity disorder and decide which one of you they want to use to do what. And that's what I know about my labs, which is, A, you're in the broom closet. It's not this. I don't believe it has anything to do with our government. Our government can't find its elbow for its kneecap. B, it's in the future. C, you're in the broom closet reality. you're never going to get them to admit that they did anything to you. And B, yep, your staff, get over it. And all the physical stuff, the illnesses that come with it, the trauma that comes with it. A lot of us have fibromyalgia, different things like that. Women with fibromyalgia, PCOS, that comes both from the gray stuff, but it can also come from just the trauma of the MyLab stuff. So,
okay. How about quantum jumping and the abductee, quantum jumping and the aliens?
Abductees, quantum jumping is not that hard to do. So if you can get a book or find a teacher, I really suggest Mind Valley and read the quantum jumping book. Quantum jumping will help you significantly understand who you are as in the different parallels. A lot of us feel like we're not getting anything done. Like we've got this important work to do and we're not doing anything. Well, guess what? One of you in a parallel is doing it, probably. Or you feel like in your dreams you're doing something really important, and but why isn't that happening here? So if you learn quantum jumping and you go visit yourself in your parallels, it can really help you and who you are here, why some of the things that you might have wanted to have happen didn't happen. Like I have the love of my life in every single reality throws me another one. Every single reality he does it, and my guides in this lifetime were like, no, not him, not him, not him. And then I go quantum jumping to see what happened. Every single one, no matter where we moved to or what we did, it just it was terrible. So that makes me understand that nobody is trying to do anything to me. It's just this person and I were never going to work out. Who are you in the parallel at this time, where the secret space program is, who are you in where you make as much money as you want to make. Some of us aren't making as much money as we want to make, but there's going to be a parallel where you're making money. Or there ought to be, but just like I wasn't with that one guy and this one that I really loved, maybe money is just not for you, but you'll be able to see that and kind of come to terms with it in your parallels. So learn how to do it. There are different teachers. It'll help you a lot. Scientific remote viewing. Go to Farsight, take their free stuff, because that scientific remote viewing is going to be, those are the skills you need for any kind of psychic work or intuitive work. And they're put to you in a very non-religious way. And I think we all need a non-religious way, even if there are angels and saints and Jesus and a heaven. We all need a non-religious way to be able to understand things so that we don't clue into original sin or some of the fearful things that religion gives us. So learn to remote view, then learn to quantum jump, because if you can remote view and then you can quantum jump, you can really see what's going on with your life.
But how can one achieve quantum jumping?
It's the same thing as remote viewing. It's just you end up, it's kind of, the first time I did it, I felt like I got corkscrewed mentally, but I decided that I was going to look at my parallel lifetime directly to the left. And the way that my friends in spirit put it to me is like, think of reality as a corn on the cob. It's a string, but you've got a cob of corn. And on that cob of corn, you have rows of kernels. Okay. Each row, if a row of a kernel is your parallel reality, and you're going to go the way you start, because the energy is the closest to where you're at and it's the easiest, go to the left or go to the right. One kernel. Okay. So as long as you can focus your intention on going somewhere, I'm going, one over to the left on that row. Right now, at this time, you want to be as specific as possible about what you're targeting. So I'm going to myself this year, one row to the left. And I'm going to just look at what's going on. What happened with me is I did that, but as I went through the boundary between the parallels, it was like it was like my entire mind went like a corkscrew. Like so so it was quite the vertigo of the first time was really, really intense the first time I did it. But I basically was just remote viewing, but I ended up with this corkscrew vertigo motion and I really wanted to throw up, but I still got there and I still got a chance to look at it. So, and then after time, that kind of goes away. The vertigo goes away.
So I
So,
suppose
don't know what,
when it comes to ETs, they've got that ability broken down or
right. Well, what they have is they have physical. So the biological ships are oftentimes beings that can, the interior of the biological ships, they'll have like an alloy, a metal alloy skin that collects solar energy. So sometimes you'll see a ship that if you're right up next to it, it's black, but if you're far away, it just looks like light. Okay, or if it can coalesce to be kind of silver, but if you're right up next to it, it looks black. And what you're seeing are these, if you're looking at this, the outer skin of the ship are these little patterns and whorls that direct energy inward. So what it reminds me of is I had an Acoma seed pot that was used in to grow corn seeds, and it was the actual Acoma seed pot. It wasn't something made for white people. Acoma is a Pueblo nation in New Mexico, and they live on a high hill on a mesa that's steep sided, and they grow corn down below in the valley, but they live up top so Apaches and Navajo can't come beat them up and take their stuff. So so but they have all of these rituals that they do to bring the rain up from the California coast to New Mexico. And the rain comes, and the Zuni do it, and the Hopi do it, and other Native American tribes used to do these rituals to bring the rain. But another ritual that they do is when they have seeds, is they energize the seeds by putting them in these little saucer-shaped pots. And the top of the saucer-shaped pot has these whorls on it that direct energy toward the center where you put the seeds in. And then the person who is planting the seeds, or the ritual, you can call him a shaman, or you can call him a medicine man, or just an elder who is doing the seed planting on a ritual day, will break open that pot and plant the seeds that all this energy has been directed into. So they're not just using the soil and the water to grow seeds, they're using energy as well. So getting back to the ships. A lot of ships are seed pot shaped, but not all of them. Some are double thimble shaped, some are triangular, some are other things. But seed pot shaped ships, one that I'm aware of, had a black skin, and the black skin had the whorls on the outside in the metal, in the alloy, where it was collecting energy. So it was collecting cosmic energy, it was collecting sun energy, but underneath that alloy was a living being that was an interdimensional being. And that interdimensional being was highly telepathic, and that interdimensional being would connect up with whoever was piloting it telepathically and energetically. And so to navigate that shift, you would connect up telepathically and energetically. And when you would think about something that was important to you, or a person or a place you wanted to go, the ship would go there. Okay, so there's probably some other stuff going on with that, but it was less mechanical than it was interdimensional and telepathic and energetically connected. So they've kind of cracked the code for having biologicals be used for spiritual technology purposes or interdimensional travel.
wow.
You okay?
Yeah, I wasn't too sure if the crafts were like grown, because yeah, the idea of having an energetic entity, let's say merge with the craft, and then you're connecting to that entity to pilot that I've never heard that before, so I'm a bit like, whoa.
Yeah. So the outer skin is a protective skin for the people on the inside, but it also allows the interdimensional being is very, it needs energy. It needs cosmic energy. It needs what's in between the parallels, what's in between the dimensions energy. It needs sun energy. So, I mean, it could take the energy of an orange sun versus a yellow sun or a different type star. There's all sorts of energies out there. So your alloyed outer hull protects you, but it also provides power and energy for the being on the inside. So if you run out, like if you cover up that skin, the being on the inside is slowly going to starve to death. And so sometimes we have issues if somebody goes down underwater, like in a lake, and starts to get silted over, you're going to end up with a dead ship at the bottom of a lake because they're not able to collect any energy from sunlight, cosmic rays, anything else. They're covered with mud. So we've got stuff laying around that people don't know about that is our proof. Somebody's gone down. There's a ship. It's under the water. Go get it. It's around, but there's our proof, and who knows about it? Who's going to find it? So if we're looking for physical proof, you guys want to go out there and look for it? Start going to MUFON, asking stories about people who've seen a ship go down under the water and see lights under the water. And then just hang on to your butt otherwise, if you're going to go.
Is that the reason why we see a lot of UFOs dive into volcanoes?
Volcanoes have lovely portals, in general. And, I'm thinking of Mount Shasta. I mean, that's just the doorway. I mean, pretty much the volcano itself, there's not a lot of magma up near the top of Shasta, maybe a little bit. But what you end up getting interdimensional, or like I was saying about the quarter turned eyes. Like if you really look at Mount Shasta with your second eye, you'll see a whole city on the plain north of the mountain that's all base. Okay. And that's sort of in that quarter turn interdimensional inter-earth space. So if you have a portal, you can use the portal like Bigfoot's, you can use it to come from parallels, or you can use the portal to go to an I space, which is the C half sharp or C double sharp in terms of the musical note. Okay. So portals really sort of cover the whole gamut of where you enter the portal and where you exit the portal. If you have the technology and the know-how, you can pick the place. So Shasta is a portal on top of that. All right. There's not a lot of magma there. It's not about to explode. But again, if you look with your intuitive eye, and if you're like me, I got put to sleep. Alien technology puts me to sleep. So we're driving in a car coming from the north to go to Shasta, and I cannot stay awake. And I'm looking over at the plain where it appears to be a field of rocks and cows, a ginormous, plain of rocks and cows. And I'm seeing the overlay of the base. But they come up to the entrance, which is at the top, and then the base is down on the plain below. So I don't know. I just know for me, it's like portals. Again, I didn't want to talk about portals, but volcanoes have a lot of portals. Out here, we have the Jemez Mountains, 16 miles across. Ginormous portal place. If you want to go do mushrooms and talk to interdimensional beings, go to the Jemez Mountains. You're in a ginormous portal. You're gonna get everybody from everywhere, who's not on this physical plane. And if you have really good mushrooms, it'll be easier to see them, or some DMT or some DMEO5, whatever you want. But Jemez Mountains, those things, thumbs up.
We talked about underwater UFOs, but let's talk about underwater bases and mountain bases. I've had past guest Steve Boucher, he was a friend of mine. When he was abducted by the Greys, he was told that in Lake Ontario, in between Canada and the US, there's an underwater base. Have you ever been told the locations of some, or perhaps might have visited a few?
Yes, Lake Ontario Lake Ontario and Lake Erie it's the South Shore And Lake Ontario, it's actually not the South Shore. It's like if you're going from Toronto over to not I guess Buffalo, but you go to Niagara Falls.
Mhm.
Um, there's some stuff there in the shallow part, but I didn't really go along the Ontario stuff up to the north. So you've got bases all along the Catskills, all the way up to like Thousand Islands. Is that what it's in, like Lake Ontario? You've got bases in the mountains in the Catskills. You've got long, because Erie is so it's not very deep. You've got long bases on the shelf of Erie on the south side. And I've seen things over the water south of Toronto before, but he might be talking about stuff up in the places I haven't been. So, but Erie, yeah, Erie's full. Ontario, I'm sure is full. Lake Michigan, not so much. It's a deeper lake. It's a colder lake. It's got a lot of wave action underneath that's going on because there's a lot of eddies and stuff like that. Superior, you might have some stuff, but not so much. Erie and Ontario, warm, not very deep, easy to get in and out of. Um, Jackman Lake in Maine, Baldy Mountain in Maine, um, things dotted throughout the Catskills and the Allegheny. Trying to think where else. Chromo. So Dulce is actually Chromo. It's actually like Dulce. And Chromo's this little town in Colorado, which is on the other side of Archuleta Mesa. So, but the bigger base is up by Wolf Creek ski area. There's some stuff going on in Archuleta Mesa, but your big base is Wolf Creek Pass. So that whole area going, and that's almost Shasta size. Like Shasta would be New York in terms of size, and then Chromo, Wolf Creek, Dulce is Madison, Wisconsin, in terms of comparative size for base here. Stuff in the Pacific. I don't pay attention to Australia or New Zealand enough, so I don't know. A lot of stuff goes on in Alaska. They do need gold just like we do. Gold's the purest element, so they use gold for stuff. But I don't know about any bases up there per se. I think they're just tiny things.
Yeah.
Probably Canada too. Anywhere you got gold, somebody's working it.
Okay, let's talk about Bigfoot. I've had a few people on that physically saw them and try to catch them, and like where are they from? What do you know about them?
There are cousins. If you look at the fossil record for all the types of humans that there were, Bigfoot is another type of human. Yetis similar. They have some skills and abilities that we don't. Some people think that spiritually some of them are mantis, like ninth dimensional mantis beings. I don't know that that's the case because the Bigfoot I know are all very human and have very human emotions. But spiritually, I guess anybody can be from anywhere at any time. So, give us a break. But evolution wise, they are our cousins. They can be invisible. They have some ability to mind control you so you can't see them. But they do very real stuff. I've seen one looking through my window before when I was in Colorado on the Uncompahgre Plateau. I had a pair, a mother and a daughter, macrame my horse's braid, put the horse in at night, complete white horse, completely brushed out mane, just perfect. It looked like I had taken he always, when I would brush it, it would always look like I had taken an iron to it and made it just completely perfect. Get up in the morning and there is this lovely intricate macrame in his mane. And I said, who is this? And it was the female wife of the head of the Uncompahgre band and her daughter. And Otto was a very sweet gelding. He was an ex-racehorse, and he was pretty because he was white. And he didn't have any problem with them coming in his stall and macrameing his braid, macrameing a braid into his mane. And he, that was fine. So when I was up there, the head of the Uncompahgre band, who was called the Old Man in Ute, and I can't remember what that is in Ute, but he was called the Old Man, and he was an old man, there are very few females, so that's a problem. They're probably going to die out because they're not breeding, like for whatever reason, there aren't enough females. But the old man had his wife, his daughter, and some sons. And so the way they initially announced themselves was to come to the house, and we had a worm fence, which is an aspen fence, aspen poles that are in a zigzag. And the worm fence was about 50 feet from the house. And the porch on the house was on the north side. The worm fence was on the south side. And all of a sudden, my Tibetan Mastiff, my dog, runs out. He's insane. He's barking, 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 but he won't jump off the porch and chase whatever it is. So I go out to see what he's barking at. Is somebody coming? Because we lived really far out in the wilderness. Nobody's showing up. And all of a sudden, I hear stones hitting the roof. And and then I look around to, the way somebody would come would be from the south side. So I look around to see if anybody's coming down the hill from the south side, and all I see is a heat shimmer. So on the opposite side of the worm fence, which is probably a total of 70 feet away, I see a heat shimmer, and it's 50 degrees outside. So it's spring. It's not hot. There's no reason for a heat shimmer. And these stones are falling on the roof, and this ginormous Tibetan Mastiff is like, I can't leave the porch, but I'm gonna bark. So that's what he did, and that's like when I realized, oh, we have something here. But I had also been on a radio show with somebody who said, well, if you want them to come, you can invite them. So do you want to invite them? And I had invited them, and they came. So one of the things they did is I got a very clear telepathic connection right after that, where I heard a male voice in my head say, come outside. And we had outbuildings that had motion sensor lights we were in a high cougar trafficked area. And if you wanted to go out of the house to the barn, you wouldn't necessarily want the cougar to stay there while you were walking in the dark. So as you're walking to the barn, these motion sensor lights would come on. So this voice says, come outside and walk toward the barn. And okay, now stop there. And the garage motion sensor light was directly on me. And I'm standing under the garage motion sensor light going, okay, I'm standing here. And I'm getting kind of scared, and I'm looking from side to side. I'm standing here. And then the voice says, okay, that's enough. You can go back inside now. And so I walked back in the house, and I thought it was Bigfoot. I wasn't sure. The next day I went out, and the back corner of the garage, there was some dirt because the 2-track that went into the pasture started there. And so there was dirt on the double track, and there were footprints in the dirt on the double track. So they were right on the opposite side of where the light was. And I asked, why did you have me do that? And he said, I want my kids to see you so they know what a human being looks like. It like really looks like. And I'm like, because mainly they would run. If they heard humans or saw humans, they would go as quickly as they could the opposite direction. So even though they have these abilities to not be seen, we're very, very scary. We have guns, and we burn things, and we kill things, and we have wars, and we're kind of crazy. So.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Let's talk about cosmology. What's that?
So cosmology is how the universe works and what the structure of it is. And if you're not familiar with the term, start looking up physics cosmology, like the parallel stuff that we're talking about gets covered when you're talking about M-brains and Edward Witten's. It's a mathematical cosmology theory of string theory. Okay, so everything scientifically real hardcore scientists do, they dream up first with mathematics and thought, conceptual thought, right? And one way they test whether or not it's possible for it to work is whether or not the mathematics works. Now, this is actually at the core kind of biased, because what if we don't have mathematics that works for what's actually happening in the universe, right? So, we can call scientists on that. But at the same time, it's very elegant. Mathematics is very helpful to come up with multiple layers of things that are happening in terms of our physical cosmology, but then we also have a spiritual cosmology, an energetic cosmology, and energetics. So we haven't quite gotten to the point where we understand quantum reality yet, but we're trying to get there, and that quantum reality is often spiritual reality. But if you want to start understanding how things work, then look at physics cosmology, look at spiritual cosmology. So a spiritualist reverend, because I'm a spirit medium. And there are books about spiritualist cosmology. And there are intersections. If you start doing the work all the time with intuitive work, you start to see intersections between physics and spirituality. So start reading up. It's important to understand cosmology, that this is not God or the devil. It's not black or white. It's not dualistic. It's that there is a whole greater cosmos out there that exists across time and space, exists in multiple parallels, and exists in multiple strings, and exists in different kinds of physicalities. So like in the astral plane, when you're in the astral plane, you can perceive yourself as being physical and what is around you as being physical, but that's your physicality in that plane. In the mental plane, same thing. Are angels physical? Well, not in this physical reality, but in the mental plane, they're highly physical. Can they get up enough energy to manifest on this physical reality? Yes. You ever not be in a car accident you thought you were in? Or that semi truck that was about to kill you didn't kill you? Guess what that was? That was a physicalization of angelic energy for the most part, unless it was alien energy, and because they didn't want you to be dead yet. But that happens too. So physicality is not, it's not a limitation. And that's where we get into problems, or we think right and wrong, black and white, dualistic thinking, limited thinking. You want to start looking at cosmology in a very open way, like, oh, right, I've experienced this happening. I'm wondering if that has to do with this kind, with string theory, or I'm wondering if that has to do with M-brains, or, but really looking into science, I think one of the things that abductees get dissed for is not being scientifically minded. I don't think that's true. But we also don't want to have somebody tell us that we shouldn't be scientifically minded because all those people are assholes. Oh, I can't say that. Can I say that on the podcast? Okay. So, I mean, you really want to open up your mind to different spiritual cosmology, physical cosmology, just cosmology in general, which is a theory of how things work. And it can give you a sort of map. And if you don't have a cosmology for your experiences that works, start reading, start looking. And if you maybe have to make your own cosmology, your own theory of how everything works, then do it. But get away from right and wrong, good and bad, dualistic concepts, because those will make you nuts. Just things are.
Wow. So that's a complicated subject. How about alien technology? I've had people like abductees that would talk about what they've seen, And a lot of them have been shut up by the military, or at least threatened, because they don't like us talking about what they saw, because a lot of it tends to appear in the like the public domain, let's say. So, what do you know about aliens?
Yeah, nobody's ever threatened me, guys. I don't know what's going on. And it's not because I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
So I don't know what you're doing that's getting you threatened. Is it something that you're planning? Are you learning about your own victimization mindset? Because literally, ain't nobody's ever threatened me. Ever. Once. Okay. Now, I am in a position of having to bring this information to Harvard, so maybe I get a pass. I don't know. Maybe I'm just so special I get a pass. I think that the people who are saying the military comes and threatens them, A, haven't worked through their relationship with the aliens enough to know when men in black are showing up and they're actually aliens saying, shut up. You know, B, maybe they're still in my labs and they're not supposed to be talking. Right? Do they know enough who they are to know what this technology is, to know who's threatening them? Is it military from the US? Is it military from the parallel? What is it? Right? I suppose if somebody wanted to show up, can find me and wants to show up and threaten me, you have that ability, but you're a jerk and I'll have sick my dog on you. And you know, and my dad was a karate instructor and I have guns. So, you know, what is it about you that is making these people threaten you? First of all, is your information all that important? B, are they really from the military? I have a lot of questions about people being threatened. I have a lot of questions. I had 2 abductees in the original group died under mysterious circumstances, but they were never threatened before they died. So,
Well, I do know, like I've got friends that were threatened physically by the military because they just wanted them to shut up about their story. So
was it military or were they aliens? Were they men in black?
well, they used a knife, let's say. So I don't think ETs would have used knives, but I don't know. But
Were they in my labs?
they got abducted, and I don't want to get into that too much. But
Okay. Well, no, it makes a difference. So one of the things that can happen, you can get the wrong. Like if you're in my labs, yeah, you could run across them. Okay. But if they're it depends on what they saw and it really depends on, I mean, most of the time the US military is going, if you're going to come out and say it, people are going to think you're nuts. Why do we care? Right? Why do we care? But if you're in my labs, you're more likely to get threatened. So I don't know what their experiences were.
yeah.
Sometimes in my labs, things go awry because you get the wrong person from the wrong parallel. And so you might think that you know another experiencer, but if you end up with one of their parallels that's come across the barrier physically in a ship, they might actually not be very nice to you. So I don't know. There might be more to their story about other than the government is threatening them.
Okay.
I have a friend who's an abductee who I am sure was threatened by aliens as a screen memory, and he thought that they were something else. I know for a fact that my dad was threatened by aliens as a screen memory, but he was also in my lab, so it could have been both. So I just don't tend to get threatened,
Yeah,
I guess.
well, good for you.
I'm lucky.
Good for you. Yeah.
You know, well, and the other thing, I think maybe they know that you threaten me, I'm just going to come back that much harder and tell the story that much more because I have a ginormous middle finger complex, which can I use it? Can I use it again? Can I use it again? Yeah. How many times can I give it? Can I give you both? How many times a day can I do that?
Yeah, I've had so many people on that had the black Apache, whatever, military copter, like just like watching them right in their living room.
So there's some other stuff going on with my labs. Like I had a friend, actually, and I will tell a story because he's not here anymore. He was a MyLab and he was an abductee, and he had lifetime to lifetime very powerful telekinetic abilities. And he was being used for a portal program in order to run a military portal program where they could portal into any place that they wanted to. And he got together with another one of the MyLabs who was female, and he was the age I am now, and they sabotaged the equipment because they did not want the military being able to portal into anybody's place at any time to do anything. So they sabotaged it. Well, they had just enough juice left, or they had somebody else in the background that he didn't know about. They portaled into his apartment, which was locked, and they beat him within a half inch of his life. They didn't come in through the front door. They didn't come in through the window. They came in through a portal, and they left him lying in a pool of blood on the floor, and he wasn't found for 2 days. And then he was taken to the hospital, and he had contusions and lacerations and bone breaks that were consistent with being beaten and stomped on. And he nearly died. But it wasn't alien tech, and he wasn't talking about it. He just flipping right out sabotaged it. Because he was like, yeah, I don't know, you guys are assholes, you know? But it depends on what program you're in. I'm not working for some MyLab program that I'm not supposed to be talking about too.
Okay.
So
Makes sense.
yeah.
How about 10 subjects that you need to learn if you're an abductee?
Yeah, I didn't think about that in advance. So first of all, I would say learn your clairvoyance, claircognizance, learn your clairs, learn how to use your brain. There's no third eye, even though you might see things right here as a screen coming down. There's no actual third eye, so don't try to insert one in the middle of your head. That'll just mess you up. But your brain, how you remember things, like if you remember things visually, or if you're thinking about concepts, see them visually, you're going to have good clairvoyance. So learn how to recognize it. Go take some classes. You can go to Arthur Finley. You can take class from somebody like me. You can take an animal communication class. You can take a Farsight Institute class. There's lots of classes, but you're looking for something that is not terribly religious or duality based. So learn your clairs. Take care of your trauma. Learn. There are lots of people doing energetic trauma release. So go to some holotropic breath work and get your trauma out of your body throughout lifetimes. There aren't as many very good regressive hypnotherapists as there used to be. If you find yourself in the presence of one who will let you stay under for more than an hour and a half, go there. Because you really are going to, if you want to get regressed, you're really going to need like 2 or 3 hours to do it right. But if you can't find one, holotropic breath work could be helpful. So learn to do that. Learn Reiki. Learn how to heal yourself. Learn second degree Reiki. Learn how to connect to anything, anywhere in the universe at any time. And then combine that with remote viewing, because your clairs are going to be really good once you do remote viewing. And so your energetic and your clair connections with things and how to target is all going to be really good if you learn those 2 things. Do lots of animal communication, because it's telepathic communication. And when you remember how telepathic you are on this planet by doing lots of animal communication, and go work with vets so they can say, yes, that horse actually does have that thing right there. And you can get some affirmation. Animals will never lie to you. People will. So that's why I say animal communication. People will lie. No, I don't have that problem. How could you say that? Whereas an animal would be like, my toe hurts so bad. Animal communication is where you want to go. And if you can do it with vets, that's great. But when you remember how you did telepathic communication, how much you did, you start to feel better about yourself. Like, I'm not just some crazy person. I have telepathic communication skills, and I'm good with this. So I'm going to do something with it, or I'm going to also use it to become less fearful and more empathetic. You know, a lot of us are dealing with getting over the hump from being very, very, very afraid, because there are my lab idiots out there doing stuff like beating up my friend Al and whoever it is, maybe threatening your friends. But you're going from, your fear is way up here. And when you learn how to be telepathic and how to connect with everything in the universe, you realize there's a lot less to be afraid of. And you have a lot more power and control and love and compassion. It's great to have those things, but sometimes you'll hear people saying them like they're a mantra when they don't really have them. No, learn your skills. Learn your telepathy. Do some sessions, do some healing work, do some energetic healing work, Qigong, Reiki, those kinds of things. It's going to help you with the trauma that's in your body already. It's going to help you when you come up with your remembering your traumatic experiences. It's going to help you with your empathy. Learn how the world works. Learn ecology. Okay. Learn meteorology, learn ecology, learn how planets work, learn planetary studies. Okay. We live on planets, whether it's this planet or whether we're going to another planet. Learn some physics. That way you can tell if some channel who says that she's channeling Stephen Hawking is really channeling Stephen Hawking, because she'll say some stuff that makes no sense whatsoever. And if you've read Stephen Hawking, you'll know that. But if you already know how to channel, you can just ask Stephen Hawking and he'll say, I'll channel for you when you learn physics. And then you'll know she's talking bullshit. So, you know, it's like discernment. Learn discernment, but learn discernment with your own skills. Almost everybody who's a lifelong abductee or a long-term abductee has skills. We have telekinetic skills. We have telepathic skills. We have remote viewing skills. We have floating skills. Some of you might remember floating. We're anti-gravitational skills. We have out-of-body skills. Recover your skills. And then life gets more interesting instead of scary.
Yeah. Well, you lose the fear of death, at least.
Right. Right. Oh yeah. Die is a good one. Die and come back. But not everybody gets to do that. So, you know, you could ask the aliens to kill you and let you go through the tunnel and then bring you back. But they just did that by accident to me. So that's helpful too. But, you know, don't wreck your body in the process. And, you know,
talked a bit briefly about Sirius B. Now, do you remember your persona, who you were back then?
So my last lifetime, I was what was called an animal singer. And what was happening is the entire planet was heating up so fast because the corona of the sun was stretching outwards. It was getting ready to supernova. And so very similar to now, we talk about global warming. Well, Sirius B was actually having a sun that was ready to supernova. I don't think our sun is ready to supernova. I think this is actually a lot of mostly man-made stuff. But in any case, they had such spiritual technology for so long, and they were doing like they would control. So I was female. I was married to a friend of mine who lives in Alaska now. We've been doing this dance for a long time. and and he's berserker. So what's interesting is he was berserker back then. Like I was not supposed to marry him because he had the berserker. You know what berserkers are? They're like Vikings that just spin around and chop everybody up. Well, even on Sirius B, he had the berserker gene. It was like if he got mad, he'd just black out and punch everybody. So he was already not supposed to come to Earth because he was going to like up the aggression level. But my job was to help animals move in the ocean and on land from areas of heat to areas of less heat, from areas of where there was scarcity to areas of where there was food. And I would telepathically and through song direct them to the areas that they needed to go bilocationally. And there was a lot of that sort of stuff that was going on, but it's sort of geo-spiritual engineering in the sense that you're trying to keep everybody safe and as many beings alive on the planet as long as you possibly can. And then and the Sirius B Council would be something like if you were somebody like me, you would end up going and getting trained, and it was as if you would disappear off the planet while you were getting trained. and then you would be put back on the planet after you were trained. And so what I remember from my persona is that there was a lot of conflict, and I've kept that conflict with the Sirius B Council because I was married to this guy who had the berserker gene, and and this we did lifetime to lifetime. Like, you'd get married in one lifetime and then you get married in another and you get married in another. Like your karma was not as complicated as it is here. It was, yeah, that's my person, and I'm going to come back and I'm going to marry him again, or I'm going to be the male and he's going to be the female, but we're going to come back, we're going to do it again. So anyway, there was a conflict about him that they didn't want to send him to Earth. And I was like, no, if I'm going to Earth, you're sending him to Earth. I don't care. I don't care if he's got that in his energy field. You need the berserker. You need some people to be berserker in order to survive, right? So I really had to fight for that. But the other thing that was happening is the sun was heating up much faster than they realized. And so they were doing like culling of people, like active genocides, just because there weren't good places for people to live. Right. And they were, trying to keep it was all like, imagine Big Brother, but Big Brother is psychic and can see everything. you know, it's kind of nice not to have psychic monitors seeing everything. It's kind of nice to just go out and, sit on your own piece of moss and watch the bugs, and think your own thoughts and marry who you want to marry and do what you want to do and not be in lockstep with some greater plan. But I just remember having, I loved animals. I loved the planet that I was on when I was on it. I felt like I got some undeserved positive attention that, I think everybody should have gotten. I think everybody is important, and I think everybody needs to be considered to be important. And so that's what I feel like I learned from that, is that, spiritual geoengineering or spiritual evolutionary engineering, wow, that looks all shiny on the outside, but it's maybe not so good.
Could you describe what the planet looked like?
Well, when I was there the last time, we lived by the water, and it was wet and hot and dry, both. So a lot of ocean. And then the land was a lot less greener. It was very desertified on the land. And it was very warm. And we were living in adobe type buildings because they had the most insulation that you could get.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So we've gone through the entire list already.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So do you want to get into another story or like a closing statement on regarding what you've talked about?
Abductees are not RH negative. They are RH negative and RH positive. If somebody is telling you you can't be an abductee because you're RH positive, you smack them in the face for me and tell them to shut up. If you know what your experiences are, that's what they are.
Yeah.
Okay. Don't let some expert tell you you aren't who you are, if you know who you are.
Yeah.
All right.
That's why I don't get them on my show, because they're the middleman.
Right. They're the middleman for misinformation, for the most part. And so beware of the big time experts, because sometimes they'll tell you stuff that it'll send you for a loop. And what you really need is support, and you need somebody to listen to you, and you need to come to your own, like the top 10 skills, you need to come to your own understanding of your own experiences. And your understanding of your experiences may be different than mine, but if I were here in the room with you, I would still listen to you and, tell you what I think, but not what I'm an expert in, or tell you, not be an authority. And this is why, abductees need abductees, is we need people to be peers, which we used to call at Harvard, our group, the Program for Extraordinary Experience Research, which spelled peer. But we did peer support, not I'm an expert, because it doesn't help anybody. And the theories are simply theories. And, my theory about how, what I've heard might be partial, but you might have more information. What's great when you get abductees together is everybody might have a little piece of the puzzle too. It's not a game. It's not a video game. If you meet somebody who's treating it like, I shall be the one, like Highlander or something like that, run. You know, you don't need them. Okay, you know, it's not entertainment. We're not the freak show. You're not the freak show if you're an experiencer. And your life is valid and important, and whatever your mission here is, honor yourself and love yourself enough to get on it and to see it through, because it'll be interesting.
Well, it's been fascinating, Elizabeth. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Yeah, thank you.
Good
luck, everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good luck
to all of us. So, to those watching, I hope you enjoyed today's interview. I'm your host, Mr. Gray. More interviews coming up, and I'll see you guys next time. So, take care, everyone. Hello, everyone. This is Mr. Gray, and thanks for watching today's episode. If you are an abductee, contactee, or experiencer, and you believe that your story could help others, please feel free to contact me through my YouTube channel email. When it comes to experiencers, the ET phenomena, and the future, remember, truth will out.